आरंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं हरि ओम अरविंद जी दीप्ति जी राजीव जी तरुण जी एंड चित्रल जी नमस्ते so we will be
Namaste.
namaste we will be starting our session. Yes. Yes, this is a true story. Okay. Titled it When the Guru Departs, the meaning of Nirpeksha Ashru from Damleji's life. So let us begin. If you are not able to hear me for some reason, if there is some audio lag, you can always let me know. Yes, you are able to hear me, isn't it now? All right. This story from May 30, 1986, just 3 days after my 39th birthday, is a sad one. But through the sorrowful experience, I learned the real meaning of Nirpeksha Ashru, selfless tears. I just received a telegram. Come, Bombay, immediately. Sensing the urgency, as I would not have received the telegram otherwise, I got ready to travel immediately. From the inside, I had just wanted to hug my Guru, Gokhleji, once, and I had missed a moment in the last meeting, after which my Guru had left for his journey to the Himalaya. I had unnecessarily felt a hesitation for reasons unknown to me. As I quickly got ready to go to Mumbai, I also packed my sweater and other winter clothes in my bag and left, even though the climate of Mumbai did not require them. I don't claim to be a clairvoyant yogi, but in my long life, right from childhood, I have had moments where I have been able to intuitively understand some things that occur in the unseen providences of things. I am not that type of yogi who is able to see clearly into the future, and I don't wish to be too. I am just sensitive, and so I sense things. And when I do, it creates a disturbance on the inside, and I follow the inner voice. And during those times, I don't even ask God if I should do it or not, because this has been the way I have been living my life. I reached Mumbai. I got the sad news that my Guru had left his mortal body in Manali following a cardiac arrest. People from the Bharatiya Majdoor Sangh and senior officials from the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh had all come to his brother's home in Andheri. His place of departure was far away, nearly 2000 kilometers, and so it was not really possible for all to go for the Antim Kriyas. When I reached Andheri from Churchgate, a discussion was underway on who should go, accompanying his younger brother, Madhav, in the flight to Delhi, for which two open air tickets were already booked. Mr. Kare, a senior follower of Gokhleji, told me many people were waiting and that there was a possibility that my name might be proposed. He too was sorrowful, and the untimely departure of our Guru at the age of 57 only was a shock to him too. But keeping his emotions aside, he advised me to go and get some warm clothes and be prepared, as it was going to be cold in Manali. I didn't utter a word and simply opened my bag and showed him my sweater and warm clothes. And he got stunned. He remarked, Are baap re, you really are different. I only shook my head and went to meet the people. Gokhleji's elder cousin, who was also an IAS officer like Gokhleji, and his mother were seated and discussing when I entered. His mother just spoke, Madhu will only accompany Madhav. To which the elder one replied, I don't know who is Madhu Damle. Let me decide, as many people are waiting outside for my reply. And Gokhleji's elder brother asked me a few questions. He asked me if I was from Pune, and then some more relevant and irrelevant general questions. And I don't know why. He concluded to Gokhleji's mother, he is the right person to go. Mother was happy, and Madhav too felt positive, as he was around my age only, and told me, Madhu, let's go. Dada is the eldest in our family, and we were waiting for his decision. From there, I was given the other open air ticket, in which my name was annexed at the airport, and we boarded the flight from Mumbai to Delhi. When we reached Delhi, it was night time, and we went to the government taxi booth and got a registered taxi, as I insisted to Madhav that this would be the safest and best. We got into a taxi, and as we were traveling, the route became quite dark and narrow. Madhav expressed his concern that he was afraid that he had a sufficient amount of money in his pocket. This was quite normal, as there was no ATM system that time. As the car took an unknown turn from the usual route, I asked the driver, what happened? Which route have you taken? He told me, Sir, I am feeling quite cold, as I don't require the as I didn't require the cold clothes in Delhi. But I will definitely be needing them in Manali. My home is nearby, and so I am just collecting my clothes. After a few minutes, he parked the cab in the middle of nowhere and disappeared. This seemed rather odd, as he didn't park his vehicle near his home, and both Madhav and I felt a little alarmed. Madhav began fretting about the money in his pocket. I asked him to hand it over to me. I used to wear leather boots during that time, and so I took the bundle of notes, split them into two so that they may be kept within each shoe, and then tied my laces firmly. I told him, don't worry, the money is safe inside now. If anybody else comes, I will deal with them. It was really pitch dark, and as we were in an unknown place, it seemed mightily eerie. But the driver returned promptly and apologized for the delay. He was already aware that both Madhav and I were going for the Antim Kriyas of our Guru, and he sincerely felt sorry for keeping us waiting. And so we resumed our long road journey that lasted half 1,000 kilometers and finally reached Manali in the morning. When we reached there, one of his Shishyas, Sanjeevani, who had accompanied him to Himalayas, was present, and we met her. She informed us that his mortal remains were not yet handed over, and that we were waiting to receive the death certificate. She told Madhav that as her signature would not be valid and the certificate would be given if only his brother or any blood relative were to collect it, they had not handed it over to her. So the three of us went to the doctor, who confirmed if Madhav was indeed his brother, and went on with the formalities. I was also asked to sign as a witness. So I asked him before signing, Doctor, can I see the certificate? To which both Madhav and Sanjeevani felt uncomfortable, as they felt there was no logical reason for me to verify the certificate. He gave me the certificate and said, you can now take the mortal remains after completing the next formalities. As I read it, I saw that the cause of death was mentioned as myocardial infarction. As I was previously a medical executive selling medicines for the heart, I knew there was a typo. I told the doctor, excuse me, doctor, I think the word should be myocardial infarction. The other Shishya looked at me as if I was intruding unnecessarily and asked me not to intervene. But I replied to her that a typo in the certificate wouldn't do justice to the great caliber of our Guru, who was a well renowned person. The doctor expressed surprise at my knowledge of this term and asked how I was aware, to which I quickly replied that I was from the medical line. He corrected it immediately and handed over the certificate. After I went out, he asked Sanjeevani, who was this person and how is he related to Gokhleji? She told him he is a Shishya of Gokhleji. To this, the doctor replied, I am of the firm opinion that the cremation can be done immediately and by offering a bhadagni, as it has been 3 days since the departure. As it is, May, June are the hottest months. This was true, as we would sweat in the afternoon in Manali, and the nights would be extremely cold. He further advised keep this case directly onto the pyre, along with the physical remains, and also don't show his face to any close one. And if his Shishya wishes to see, definitely don't let him see it, as it would scar his memory forever. She replied, okay, and came and passed on the doctor's instructions to me. However, as the formalities for getting clearance from the police and municipality were being completed by the other Karyakartas, and it would take some more time, we had to wait until afternoon to receive the mortal remains. I had expressed my wish to see the place where Gokhleji breathed his last, and a government officer from the Department of Tourism informed me that as we have time, he could show us the place. And he was present on the spot when Gokhleji's body was taken to the doctor. Madhav too agreed, as he too wanted to know so he can inform the other family members about it. We had to take a cab and we went higher up to the hot sulfur springs, which were known for their therapeutic properties, where Gokhleji had gone to bathe. As he was leading us, he showed us a series of small tanks of a private facility. And he walked ahead, aiming to show the exact tank where Gokhleji was taking a bath when he experienced the heart attack. As all were curious, they quickly followed him. But I got stuck at a particular tank, as I suddenly fell silent and stood, still feeling remorse at the loss of my guru. I felt, what is the need in looking at tanks? They all look the same. I don't know what thought came in me, and when, as you know, when I get the inner feeling, I follow it. So I just stood there, ignoring the others who were walking ahead. The officer, who was leading the others, somehow turned and came back to the spot I was standing sorrowfully and remarked, oh my God, after taking his body out, this is the exact spot where we brought Gokhleji. And it was exactly here that it was declared by the doctors that he is no more. We returned after visiting the sulfur spring, and soon the formalities were complete. Nearly 60 members began moving for the cremation with his mortal remains. A 90-year-old senior citizen who was an elder in the Shakha led us as we went towards the Vyas river banks. I prayed to the divine while carrying his remains on one shoulder. From the hotel to the cremation grounds on the banks of the Vyas river, I said, Yar, to the divine, Yar, please give me one last darshan of my guru. It's okay if there is some discoloration or little change in appearance due to his illness. I want to see the face of my beloved Kaka. One more time. Please do something. And we reached the river banks, and those assembled began reading the Bhagavad Gita verses. And the elderly gentleman sat down surrounded by the others who had tremendous respect for him. I suddenly got a strong thought sitting by the banks of the river, and following its cue, I went straight to him, offering my pranams, and spoke, Dadaji, can I say something? To which he consented. I told him, Dadaji, this was a very famous person who had given lectures in Chicago as well. Though I have come here, I have also not seen who is inside the case. Both you and the doctor have told me that he is indeed my guru. But the Shastra says we cannot cremate such a person without seeing his face. I still don't know from where I got these words or who spoke these through me. And I further added, if anything goes wrong, people will ask you why you did not follow the Shastra. During emergency, Indira Gandhi, who had passed on so many arrest warrants, arrest instructions for people connected with the Sangh Parivar, and this was well known, but she had specifically passed on instruction to her officers regarding Gokhleji, who had laid the foundation of the laws of the Majdoor Sangh. She had said, don't arrest him, he's a spiritual man. This is the caliber of my guru. The senior citizen replied, yes, what you are saying is very pertinent and true. The others interjected, but the doctor has told to not see his face. To which I replied, I am his Shishya. Nothing will happen to me. The elder one said to all those around, what he has said is very true. Open the case and let everyone have a darshan of him, as I feel it is logical, as per what he has said. I still don't know which verse said it, but I'm sure it was there in the Shastra. And what should I say about the darshan that I saw when they opened the case? His face was radiating a light and was fair and peaceful, and it looked like there was a smile on his face. There was not a single spot on the cloth that was wrapped around his body too. There was no distortion in the facial features, and I felt blessed to see the final darshan of my guru. He truly was a yogi of the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo. The body too had not deteriorated, and all got his darshan and proceeded for the final cremation. I remember during that time there was a controversy that had taken place during the cremation of a great guru as to who should light the pyre, the Shishya or the son. It was resolved then that the Shishya should stand by the feet and the son by the head and offer the pyre. Though I remembered it, I decided not to speak about it and let the divine will be done. But the elderly man told that wrap cloth on two wooden pieces and dip them in ghee, light two flames for lighting the pyre. Let this student, me, stand by his feet, and let Gokhleji's brother stand by his head, take a pradakshina, and simultaneously light the pyre. After lighting it, the process of cremation took a lot of time. It was also getting very cold, and people began to disperse. The female Shishyas were also asked to go home as it was getting late. Those who had assembled also went. Only Madhav and I were left behind, watching over. Hari Om, I think somebody's. I'll just mute you. Please ensure you are muted. Yeah. Hari Om. Yeah. Only Madhav and I were left behind watching over. But as time passed by, we observed that the body was not burning properly, and we had almost run out of logs. We looked around and saw that only the refugees who lived under the trees were there. I approached them and told that we had run out of wood for the cremation of our kaka and requested them for some wood. Two of them came forward and helped us, and we completed the cremation, which was a very difficult process to watch, as we had to put pieces of flesh which fell outside back in. This was a bhadagni. Because I knew this was my karma and my duty, I didn't pay any attention to anything else. There is no room for emotions when one is doing one's duty. And because I was detached, we could perform the Antim Kriyas. Otherwise, seeing the flesh of one's guru would simply break a person. Somehow, without going too much into details, we completed our duty. Madhav, who was like my brother, was sitting in a corner and appeared a little sorrowful, which was natural, as he was participating in the rites from morning. I also felt I should spend some time in solitude. And so I asked him if I could go elsewhere and sit in silence. He told me to go ahead, and so I went and sat on a rock away from the place and I stared consciously, with concentration, at the sky, like I had when my mother had passed away and was feeling very strong sentiments. It was then that I saw Gokhleji, accompanied by two divine beings who looked beautiful, with heavenly ornaments. I felt a rush of emotions, and I felt I should not let him go, and to try to hold him back, I said out in a voice full of force, "Who is it? What's going on? Who is taking him?" And at that time, I saw Gokhleji with all his humility looking down at me. Even at that moment, the calmness and grace reflecting in his persona was palpable. That is one of the many reasons I consider him to be my guru. He had a serene, calm expression, and his face looked so peaceful, and there was no disturbance on it. He didn't give me any instruction. Indeed, indeed, what could he give now that he was in the company of gods? I just mute Shardati Hariom. Yes, indeed, what could he give now that he was in the company of gods? I could only read the expression of his face, which seemed to imply in a neutral way, "What is it that you are doing?" And the two heavenly beings who stood beside him on either side gestured to me, nodding their head, indicating their disapproval, as if saying, "Don't do this." The inner spirit has an unfathomable strength that can interfere in the post death journey too. And then I stopped, and suddenly all three disappeared. I didn't realize what had happened, but had swear words in my mind at the two of them for taking my guru away. I sat down again, but this time there was an influx of feelings as I saw the faces of my two beloved children. And as if all restraint was lost, I began weeping profusely. And at that time, I heard a distinct voice in English. "Why are you crying?" Given the timing of the voice and my grief, I was annoyed by it. I asked rather bluntly, as per my swabhava, "Who the hell are you?" Indeed, who on earth asked such a question in such a desolate moment? I considered this an invasion of my privacy and was very annoyed. Just a moment ago, I was willing to fight the Devas, and so I was certainly not going to allow this voice to disturb me now. But the voice continued, "It's okay, you are crying. But why are you crying?" I replied immediately, "Why the hell are you asking?" To which the voice replied, "No, go back to your memory." These are the exact words that I heard. And somehow I became silent and tried to think, when did I start crying? I remembered I had seen my two children's faces in my mind, and so I began crying, as I was worried what will happen to them. And the voice said, "So, you are crying for your kids and not for Gokhleji." I ignored the voice, which I considered accursed for not allowing me even a moment of peace with myself. Then both of us came back to our guest house, and I didn't speak a word of it to Madhav. And both of us went to our common room and packed my bags to depart the next day. And I boarded the bus the next day that went past the Vyas River. Madhav, who accompanied me, told me he wanted to smoke a cigarette and sat by the window. Another Shishya, Sanjeevani, who was accompanying us, told me that she can't tolerate the smell of cigarette, and she went and sat in the front. After 10 minutes, Madhav offered me the corner seat, and I sat by the window, looking outwards, and suddenly saw the place by the banks where my guru was cremated. I remembered all and revisualized all the scenes where my guru was cremated, and this time I began to cry out loud. I was crying out so loud that other passengers in the bus too heard me. Sanjini left her seat and came to me to offer me solace, but I simply asked her to leave me alone. Then she asked Madhav to advise me, and he came and tried to calm me down, telling me, "Madhu, don't cry like this. See, everyone in the bus is watching you." I just retorted, "Let them see." And I slowly began crying softly and thought, I have never cried like this and created a scene of my tears. I asked myself, what's going on? And at that instance, I again heard the same voice. Why are you crying? I replied again, to hell with you again. Who are you? At least let me cry and give me that solace. The voice replied, no, I have just asked you a simple question. Why are you crying? Go back to your memory. Amidst the emotions, I realized I had been crying out so loud and unaware of anybody else around me. I reminded myself, a lion doesn't shed tears in front of others, and I began going back in my memory. And I thought of only one thing. Who is there? Who is going to love me now? My parents are no more. All only trouble me by taking advantage of my abilities and capacities. Who is there on earth now who is going to love me like my guru? That time the voice said, so you are thinking about yourself. Who will love you? See, the time has come that you should love others and not expect love from anybody. Then I got annoyed again. If you are talking like this, tell me who cries without any expectation. Is there a Nirpeksha Ashru? Oh, wise voice, I said sarcastically. Can you at least tell me? And the voice became silent, and I didn't hear anything. Sometimes it feels that the gods also behave as if they have no heart, and sometimes we feel the divine is all compassionate. I came back home where my guru would stay in Mumbai. Everyone had gone to their respective homes, and as such, Gokhleji's untimely departure had caused a sorrow in the psyche of one and all. In the evening, all the visitors who had come to express their condolences also departed. His two Shishyas, Alka and Sanjeevani, too expressed that they would go to their respective homes. Sanjeevani offered to come again and see me once, to which I politely refused and said I can take care of things. Another Shishya, Vimala, said, I have received a new song by a good singer, Suresh Vadkar. This has not become so famous yet, but we have received a private record of it. Can I play it for you? I requested her to set it on the tape recorder, cassette player, and told her that I would listen to it later. Out of a brotherly affection, I felt it would be best for her to go to her parents as it was an emotionally draining day for her too. The moment she left, without wasting a moment, I shut the door firmly and pressed the play button. The lyrics were in Ode to the Guru and were very deep. There were the lines that spoke of the Guru's invisible hand that supports the one in their most difficult moment. सुखाच्या क्षणात व्यथांच्या क्षणात उभा पाठीशी एक अदृश्य हात गुरु एक जगी त्राता गुरु दया सिंधु गुरु दीनबंधु गुरु जननी जन्मदाता. Listening to this, I broke down as if the waters from a dam were released and began crying and rolling on the ground as if I had suddenly become free from the world. I don't recollect listening to the remaining lyrics. I only felt like God had awakened a child in me. I was like a child crying freely, and it was an absolutely cathartic experience. I felt free and felt Gokhleji was with me, and I cried for a while. And then, when I became silent, I heard the same voice. Why are you crying? But this time, I didn't feel any irritation listening to that voice. I responded to it, saying, I don't know. I was not thinking of myself or my family this time. It again said, go back to your memory. I replied to the voice again, I don't know. And once again, it spoke to me in English language. Go back to your memory. I was blissful and simply asked, okay. And then the voice simply repeated, why are you crying? Why are you crying? What's the reason? I was too blissful to even respond initially, as I was experiencing an ethereal peace. Now, there was no anger in me towards that voice. I replied, I don't see any reason. The voice said, this is crying without any expectation. This is Nirpeksha. The realization that the Guru is always there and never gone had led an evacuation of tears that were selfless. And this was what the voice was trying to teach me. What should I now read separately in the scriptures when the divine himself is teaching this to me? Why do I need to seek separate darshan of him? Whether he appears in a form, wearing pants, wearing shorts, or a pitambara, it doesn't really matter to me. I had learned a practical lesson that I was never going to forget in my life. As it is, I rarely cried, but I had understood that I am not going to cry for my own sorrow. Doesn't the divine know my sorrow? What am I trying to tell? And to whom? By showing my tears. When one cries in front of another, you allow the other person to take a hold over you. All this is not needed. Man cries only for himself. But when it is for the betterment of the world, for instance, if you weep because of the universal pain in case of a tragedy like the tsunami, it's okay. We don't aspire to have a dry and emotionless life. Even the gods too shed a tear in such sorrowful occasions. But never cry in life out of selfishness. You should understand when you cry for selfish reasons and should never have fake tears. One must understand what is the real meaning of crying without expectations. As for me, when I got a direct experience from the divine, whom should I ask? And where should I go to search or to understand this concept of Nirpeksha tears? All those who have connected with me in their lives, even though few, have tried to follow this principle, and it has immensely benefited them. Bhagwan Sri Krishna in the Gita says, Vedeshu yagneshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarva midam viditva yogi param sthanum paiti chadyam. The deeds of the merit that the Vedas have recommended, all the sacrifices, austerities, offerings, and gifts charitable, these duties the yogi has verily transcended by attaining the knowledge of the Supreme Immutable. Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna. Hari Om. So, as yesterday we decided after this experience, we would rather not have our Gita talks. If you wish to share something about this experience, we can look at this and probably have our Gita talks tomorrow on the topic. But if anybody wishes to share something, you are welcome. Then we'll conclude with a Shanti Mantra.
Shushruti,
Hari Om.
I, Hari Om. I wish to thank you as well as Damleji for sharing such a wonderful experience. I mean, and the way you have narrated it, and that is the way he would have narrated it to you. It really took us through the entire journey. I mean, I could visualize everything that happened, and so thank you very much. This is something uh, which is wonderful, and it is not always available to all. So thank you for
Thank you,
giving
sir.
us this opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir. Just one thing I wanted to add. Before I knew this experience, Damleji had told me that you cry only for yourself. A person cries only for oneself. And this was something which I agreed, but I didn't fully agree because of probably understanding has not reached, no? So it was when I had just joined Damleji. And my friend shared to me the loss of his mother. and he was emotional and crying. That time when he was crying, I said, no, this person is not crying for himself. He's crying for his mother, which is a very sincere tear, is what I felt. So somewhere in my mind, normally when we hear an instruction, and if we are not really conducive to it, we do have some doubts. So there was this doubt. When I went to meet him, he was telling so many, my mother left too early, she didn't do these many things for me, she didn't do that. So I was getting enough hints of what Damleji's words about you cry for yourself. But I still was not fully understanding completely. But when everybody left, he asked me one question which really shook me. He asked, will my mother now haunt me? I was shocked. I was like, Arey, how can a son think like this, that the mother who's always loved in life, now she will want to take revenge or do something because of something? Then that was a selfish nature. So this aspect of I think self Nirpeksha Ashru, that is it is something Damleji says, it is evacuation. It should happen. We should let the tears flow when they have to. That we don't have to suppress it. Like Damleji said, we have to be like a child on the inside, but not for selfish reasons and selfish purposes. So so I think that was one lesson. So with this today's session, I think if anybody wants to add something, we may look at it, or else we will conclude. This is something which has to be probably, remembered, and maybe if we require, if anybody wishes to have a discussion, tomorrow we can have the Gita talks in the evening. I require the participants who are present, you can give your opinion. So we can discuss anything tomorrow if you feel like, or we will go back to the next week routine. Yes, please. Anybody? And then we will conclude with the Shanti mantra. Fortunately, Damleji shared this and he's given me permission to talk about it. Otherwise, I don't think in so many years, anytime publicly this has been spoken. And this has also been recorded, so I'm very happy about that. So this we can also hear it. I will share the link. Anybody wishes to uh, uh, share something, or what about tomorrow? Do we want to have a session tomorrow? We can have that session tomorrow, or we will meet next week. That I request the participants to share. We can have a session tomorrow. Okay, Ji, Dipti ji. Fine, Ji. All right. Then in the group, you can just mention to us in the group what would you like to look at tomorrow. We will see that. Everybody else also. So, all right, Ji. Then we'll conclude with the Shanti mantra. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरि ओम तत्सत् कृष्णं
Hari Om.
वन्दे जगद्गुरु जय श्री
Hari Om.
कृष्ण जय गुरुदेव हरि ओम
Thank you.
हरि ओम हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरि हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरिओम सर
हरि ओम जी नमस्कार हरि ओम